My name is Ryan Brophy. I'm the chair of the Elections Commission, and I'm joined tonight by 4 other members of the Elections Commission: Carlton Smith, Kyle McCauley, Kathleen Gale, and Mallory Powers. On behalf of all of us, we would like to thank everyone for being in attendance tonight. In addition to all of you in attendance tonight, this is also being filmed by the Flat Hat and will appear on their YouTube page within the coming days for the whole campus to see. It is our hope that this debate will allow you, the voter, to learn more about the candidates, their platform, and their vision for William & Mary's future. Tonight's format will be as follows. The Elections Commission will ask 10 to 15 questions we have created beforehand. Afterwards, we will send a microphone into the audience and simply raise your hand, and one of you will be selected, or multiple of you will be selected, to ask a question of your choosing to any one of the candidates or both. The candidates will get 60 seconds for a response, and then, if needed, a 30-second rebuttal after another candidate has spoken. We have chosen questions that illustrate a wide variety of topics, and we ask the candidates to focus on comparisons and specifics in their answers. Now allow me to introduce the first candidate for the SA president, Claire Etheridge, senior. Come on up. And Yohance Whitaker. All right, to begin with the first question, and Claire, we'll start with you. Why do you want to be the Student Assembly President?
Okay, hi everybody. I want to be Student Assembly President because I started following the election last year. And when I followed the election, I saw that really no one had any specific issues. No one had any specific programs that they wanted to do for the students. And I thought, I can do specific improvements for students. I can make better options for student parking. I can improve the counseling center. And if I were SA president, then I would really focus on making life better with specific things.
Thank you. Yohance?
Certainly. Well, I wanted to thank Ryan Brophy and the Elections Commission for organizing and hosting tonight's debate. And thank you all for coming and taking time out of your, what I know are very busy schedules. To answer your question, Ryan, the reason that I want to be Student Assembly President is that throughout my 3 years of SA experience, I've seen what the SA has done in its best moments and what it's done in its lowest moments. I've had the historical knowledge to know what SA has done and what it can do moving forward. The Student Assembly is a unique organization in that it provides you the opportunity to impact meaningful change long past your standard 4 years at the College of William & Mary. And to be part of that and to make meaningful change and meaningful impact at the College of William & Mary is why I decided to run. So it is our hope, Katie and I, that if elected, the Student Assembly and the student body will be more connected, more engaged, and more inspired.
Thank you.
Question is for both of the candidates tonight. What roles in college have prepared you to be SA president?
And this time, Yohance, we'll start with you.
Certainly. Well, I've been in Student Assembly. This is my 3rd year. I've been in the Senate. I'm currently the chair of the Finance Committee, which looks to allocate $750,000 budget. As the chair of the Finance Committee, we've approved nearly 60 organizations for over $30,000, ranging from grad schools to undergraduate programs and events. As a senator, being one of the most productive senators in the 322nd Senate, throughout my career, sponsoring over 35 bills, and nearly a third of the bills that have been passed this term. So I would certainly say that my vast Student Assembly experience, as well as my work in res life, have certainly prepared me to not only understand, but to really know what to do as a Student Assembly president and with a wide breadth and understanding of the diversity of our campus.
So throughout my 3 years at the College of William & Mary, I have not been an SA, but I've participated in many other organizations and taken leadership roles that are not only leadership roles, but executive roles. I've been the president of my hall council for 2 years and a summer, and in that role, I really had to listen to the people. I've been responsible for whatever hall council does reflects mainly on me. I have to be ready for objections and for emails and for anything that comes, and I really have to be an advocate for the residents that I serve. So I've also been the secretary of Amnesty International, and in those roles as president and secretary, I've had to communicate with people to understand what they want and then to institute that. I'm used to instituting, and I'm an implementer. When I say I'll do something, then it gets done.
And we'll start with Claire for this question. What attributes and experience does your vice president contribute to your ticket?
My vice president is Marcel Crawford, and I really can't imagine running with anyone else. Marcel and I were on hall council together in Botetourt our freshman year, and we've served on so many hall councils and committees since. We really have not just a friendship, but also a working relationship. So Marcel is amazing with the details. He's amazing with knowing the rules of res life, which are confusing beyond belief, and really working within those. And not only has he had experience at the College of William & Mary, but he's also worked with James City County to get things done in their Parks and Rec department. So he has experience that's beyond William & Mary and into the greater community, which I really, really respect. And I'm so glad that I have his opinion on everything that I've been doing.
Certainly. Well, my running mate is Katie Pinkerton, and I am thrilled to have her on the ticket. When I was looking and wanting to run for Student Assembly president, I wanted to have a vice president that provided a balance, that we didn't have necessarily the same perspectives. Yes, we shared the same vision and mission, but we believed that William & Mary could be, but that we were different people who had different viewpoints. Katie has worked in her collegiate career as an executive of the operations team for Camp Kesem. She's worked at the Charter Day, and so she's on that student-led committee. She's been on Theta Exec, and she is a student teacher in the Williamsburg-James City County public school systems. So she has a breadth of experience ranging from being in a sorority to being in a service organization to leading in what is one of our larger events, the Charter Day. And when I knew that Katie was perfect, she described herself as wanting to be a wide tree rather than a tall tree, because a wide tree can spread out and provide shade for other people, whereas a tall tree is just in it for the appearances. So I thank you for being our wide tree, Katie.
Okay, Yohance, you will go first, but can you name an instance where you made a positive change on campus and describe that moment?
Certainly. Of the legislation that I have been pleased to sponsor, I've really worked with the Diversity Initiatives Department on their I Am William & Mary program, and then also their We Day. And it's been an opportunity for me to look and see how can we improve the diversity of William & Mary, how can we acknowledge all of the cultures and the peoples and the identities that belong to our wonderful William & Mary family. And so in my role as a senator, I've made sure that a lot of my focus has been on making sure that all student voices are represented at William & Mary. And so of my accomplishments in Student Assembly, I would definitely say that my working with the Diversity Initiatives Department is right up there.
I would say that one of my achievements at William & Mary is last year when I was the president of Ledwell Hall Council. In case you don't know, upperclassmen hall councils are notoriously unpopulated. No one really wants to be a part of them. Everyone has their friends and they do their own thing. But on Ledwell Hall Council, I had my exec board, and together we really worked hard to create events that people would come to, and people came. Upperclassmen came out for hall council events, which seems crazy, I know, but it did happen. And we really had to focus on sending out surveys. We tried email surveys, which don't really work because you get like 5 responses, but we had to really work to communicate with the residents, and we had to really work to come up with stuff that would be fun. But we did it. We got people to come out, and we helped to create a community in a place where the only community space is outdoors. So that was pretty great.
This one, we'll start with Claire. If you could change one thing about William and Mary, what would it be?
If I could change one thing about William and Mary, I would make our counseling center better. That's one of my main tenets of my platform, is making the counseling center better. And I know that there's been an SA push to destigmatize the counseling center, and I think that's great. But it doesn't help to destigmatize a counseling center that's understaffed, that's overworked, where a lot of students have mediocre or bad experiences. So if I were SA president, then what I would do on campus is I would make sure that there were enough spots for people not to have to go see graduate students when they were in a crisis situation. That there would be a good process for people who are in crisis to be able to access the counseling center and access a counselor, not a grad student. That people wouldn't be pushed into group therapy when they didn't want it, or only get to go to therapy every 2 weeks when they needed it once a week.
For Katie and I, the physical, mental, and sexual health of all William & Mary students is our priority. And so we want to make sure that students, when they go to the counseling center, when they go to the health center, that we're continuing to provide services such as the free flu shots and the subsidized STI tests. We want to make sure that we can expand the resources that the counseling center and the health center have. In my service as a senator, I helped with Kendall Lorenzen sponsor the STI bill, which made sure that the way that we funded STI tests would be sustainable throughout our college experience. And so we wanted to make sure that students would always be able to have that resource. I helped sponsor the Celebrate You Concert Act with Hope, and that was a great collaboration in making sure that we look at mental health from a more positive way, highlighting how students can improve their mental health. It seems as though a lot of William & Mary students walk around, as Paul Lawrence Dunbar said, wearing the mask. We wanted to make sure that we can take that mask down so that people aren't afraid to hide behind a smile, but they can feel free to acknowledge their failures, and that we as a community can support each other.
Yohance, we'll start with you for this next question. Could you please highlight some key differences between your platform and your opponents?
Certainly. Well, if you will indulge me, my father is a Baptist pastor, and so we come from an experience where we have what we call making it plain. So if I could make it plain, the distinctions between my ticket and Claire's ticket. So if you were driving a car, you wanted to make sure that you had someone in the car who had the experience to drive it, who understood how to navigate the student assembly, understood really what the student assembly can do, know how to navigate it around the twists and the turns of the road. And I would say that that's one of the key differences between Claire and I, is that through my involvement in student assembly and through Katie's other executive roles, we really know how to stir the student assembly. We have specifics in our program of Connect, Engage, and Inspire, making sure that the student assembly is connected to students, making sure that we are advocating for students, and making sure that we're leading in a way that all students can be proud of.
Thank you. Claire?
I would say that a big difference between my platform and Yohance's platform is that we have so many more specifics in our platform. We don't just say that we want to promote things or that we want to be open to students. We have specific plans already for what we want to do. For example, one of Yohance's tenets is the One Tribe, One Click, so making the SA website more streamlined. But the problem is, if you make the SA website more streamlined, it doesn't help if it doesn't have more information on it. If it doesn't have the SA agendas that we all want to see so that we can tell what's going on before it's happened. If it doesn't have more resources for students, if it doesn't have a suggestion that clearly goes to people. So our platform is really more specific, and if SA is so closed that you need to be an SA to really navigate it, then that should change.
All right, our next question is, many students complain about how disconnected the SA is from the student body at times. How would you try to bridge that gap? And we'll start with Claire.
Great, so I already started talking about it last time, but Marcel and I would really want to be open to students. We would want a lot of student input. In our campaign already, we've been asking the groups that we've talked to, what would you like to see from SA? What could SA do for you? And as president and vice president, we would only continue that. We would hold office hours every day. One of us would have office hours for students to come to. We would have suggestion boxes, both real and online, and we would really look for student input. So in SA programs, we would try as much as possible to program with other organizations and to use existing resources instead of just going it alone. We would try to really foster a community and listen to our students as we were a part of SA. And SA is trying to increase transparency right now, but we need to continue that transparency so that students know what's going on in SA before it happens.
So part of Katie and I's platform is Connect, making sure that the Student Assembly is connected to the students and the students are connected to the Student Assembly. And part of that, as Claire discussed, is One Tribe, One Click. But if I could also highlight that program a little bit better. So the Student Assembly website and the William & Mary website are great resources for students, and we want to make sure that people are able to get to those resources and they know how to navigate the website. So the William & Mary website and also the Student Assembly website, I don't know if you've tried to go and navigate the William & Mary website, but sometimes it takes 7 or 8 clicks to get to the resource you really need. And in a moment of crisis, when you're trying to figure out how do I refer a friend to the counseling center, you may not have 7 or 8 clicks. So we want to make sure that in one tribe and one click you can get to those resources. We want to make sure that students are constantly connecting with the Student Assembly. So our program is called What Can SA Do For You? So at the end of our emails, at the end of our website, always having a forum where students can say, here's what we want to see done by the SA, and so that we can, when we're governing, know what the student voice is and how we can meet their concerns.
And for this question, we'll start with Yohance. The SA has made some great strides in the past few years, but yet it still has some shortcomings. How do you intend to address these shortcomings?
I've been thrilled to be a part of the process that has been attempting to make the Student Assembly more efficient. As a senator, I've chaired twice the Code Revision Committee, which first got rid of the second vice president in the undergraduate council and then totally got rid of the undergraduate council on the second go-round, making sure that the Student Assembly is more effective, making sure that we're not having too many uncontested elections so that students are excited about their election. And what we would do to make the Student Assembly more efficient is make sure that there is always this constant communication between students and the student body so that no one will have to ask, what does the SA do or what has the SA done for me lately, but they'll know the programs that we provide, and they will also have that communication point between us so that we can better facilitate their needs.
I would say that SA really needs 3 things, which are all a part of my platform: transparency, engagement, and diversity. So SA needs transparency in that SA really has to be publishing their agendas. An SA agenda was last published on January 25th. Nothing has been published on their website since. Their website was down for 2 months. SA needs the students to know what's going on before it happens, not after. SA needs engagement with our students and with our community. Right now, it's too isolated. People don't know what SA does for them or what SA can do for them. A lot of student organizations have trouble talking to SA and figuring out what the process is because it's Byzantine. And SA should improve their diversity, working more with multicultural organizations and working more with the Graduate Council especially, to make sure that SA is listening to all opinions, not just a few.
Claire will begin for the next question. What do you feel is a shortcoming of yours in serving the student body, and how do you plan to overcome it?
Can you repeat the question, please? I'm sorry.
What do you feel is a shortcoming of yours in serving the student body, and how do you plan to overcome it?
So I would say that my lack of SA experience would be a shortcoming. I would have to learn how SA works, and I would have to learn how to be SA president. But I think that in learning how to be SA president, everything would have to be explained to me, how SA works. And then I would go through and I'd be able to say why. Why does SA work the way it does? Why are we doing things this way? And if it was just because of tradition, if it was outdated, then we could change it. I would be able to approach essay with fresh eyes, and I would be able to say, this isn't working anymore. We're only doing this because we've done it this way for the last 5 years, and I would really be able to improve the efficiency of essay in that way.
I would say that I wouldn't describe it as a weakness, but I would say part of something that I would have to be aware of is that I have been in essay the entirety of my collegiate career, and sometimes when you're in the swimming pool and you're a fish, you don't understand that there is more water around you. So that's really one of the reasons that I picked Katie to be my vice president. We have a pair of wise eyes and a pair of fresh eyes, as we like to say. I've been in student assembly for my 3 years, and she has no student assembly experience. So I'm able to say, Katie, here is how essay has functioned in the past. And she's able to say, well, Yohance, that doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense. So how can we work to balance each other, and she can look with her fresh eyes, and I can look with my wise eyes, and we can work better for the students.
Thank you very much. At this time, we are going to take questions from the audience. So please raise your hand, and one commission member will come over with a microphone, and we may be having a slight issue with that microphone. I think the battery might be low, so just project your voice if it doesn't work too well, and we can repeat the question if need be.
Hello. Okay. In regards to the SA's programming Mental Health Awareness Week, what would you say were the success and failures of that, and how would you improve upon it if you decided that it would be a tradition worth continuing? And if not, what would you put in place to ensure that mental health and neurodiversity is a concept that is discussed here on campus?
Great question. Yohance, we'll start with you.
Certainly. I've been a part of SA, and when we looked at the Celebrate You concert and we looked at the Mental Health Awareness Week, one of the weaknesses that I saw in it is that we could do a better job at our marketing and at our programming. So making sure that when we're having these key discussions about neurodiversity and mental health on campus, that it's not the same people in the room. We want to open up the conversation, because mental health is just not something that a few of us deal with, but it's a problem that affects all of us together. And we're all stronger when we're having a conversation together, and we are able to present all of the opportunities that the Student Assembly has, and the Counseling Center has, and the Health Center services have. So I would really focus on making sure that we opened up the conversation so that more people knew about the wonderful conversations that did happen during Mental Health Awareness Week.
Claire?
Mental Health Awareness Week was a really great initiative, and it was great that we're starting the conversation and talking more about mental health and talking more about the Counseling Center. But as I've said before, raising awareness and referring people to a counseling center that's at best mediocre and definitely overworked is not a good priority. And just as an example, this year's Mental Health Awareness Week spent $30,000 to get Swayze to come, which I'm sure was fun and I'm sure was great, but $30,000 would pay a part-time counselor to be available at the Counseling Center. I think that right now Mental Health Week doesn't have the right priorities. It has good goals, but it doesn't have the right priorities. But I would definitely be working for mental health on campus in every capacity. Well, that's different.
Do we have another question from the audience?
How would you help the average, both of you, how would you help the average student at William & Mary?
Claire, we'll start with you.
So for the average student, one of the big things in our campaign is parking. We would be looking to improve parking options both on and off campus. And for parking, there are simple things that we can do and there are more difficult things that we can do. But for everyone on campus, I would say that parking is a major discomfort at best. So for starters, we could paint lines for parallel parking in Botetourt and near the fraternity houses so that more cars would be able to fit in. We could open up parking at night in fac staff spaces. Technically, you can still be ticketed at night for parking in a fac staff space. And we would work with the administration to make parking for students a priority, not something that they ignore every time there's a basketball game. Additionally, Marcella and I have even talked about the possibility of purchasing an unused parking deck and then using that for discounted parking passes that might even be available to freshmen and sophomores.
So under the point of engaging, because the Student Assembly primarily has a role to advocate for all students. Katie and I have been working to formulate an idea for a textbook campaign to combat the rising cost of textbooks and college, to make sure that all students who are accepted to the College of William & Mary will be able to come here. And so the way that that textbook campaign will look like is, first you have an essay database where students can say, I have textbook A, and what student can say, I need textbook A, and they can go on the Student Assembly database and on the website, they can match up and can send that book to them through the CSU option which we have. The second part of that would look like Student Assembly going out and purchasing the introductory textbooks to a few small courses for our pilot program, where we would directly sell those books to students at a much cheaper rate. And thirdly, and maybe before any of us, or after all of us have gone and graduated, but making sure that the Student Assembly has the infrastructure to be in the business of buying and selling books, so that we can get a little bit cheaper books at the bookstore and Amazon.
Thank you. Yes, you up there in the collared shirt? Yep. Great question. And Yohance, I believe we start with you.
Certainly. So as I said earlier, that the Student Assembly has a role to advocate for students. And part of that is making sure that the college, which is the alma mater of the nation, will be here for the rest of our existence and continue to be here for another 322 years. And that looks like going to Richmond, that looks like going to Washington, and going to Williamsburg, advocating for students. I currently sit on the Student Advisory Council for the State Council for Higher Education for Virginia, and part of that is making sure that whenever we go to Richmond, that we're constantly asking the state to give us more money. 12.8% of the budget is not enough to continue to keep educating the wonderful students we have here. We will need more money from the state, and if elected as SA president, part of our agenda would be to go to Richmond to lobby more and to continue our Road to Richmond program.
As SA president, I would continue to work for funding for the school from Richmond. I have a lot of practice lobbying from Amnesty International, so that would definitely be a part of it. But there's also a lot that can be done on the local level with the Williamsburg government and the James City County government that really isn't being addressed right now to its full potential. I know that Student Impact does a lot of work with the Williamsburg City government, and I think that we could continue that. We could share resources. We could make it easier for students to have experiences in Williamsburg, like job experiences. We could work with the James City County Parks, especially on the bike initiative. We could be working with the city and the county to share resources for economies of scale. And I think that we would really have clout with the local government in the way that we don't have clout with the state government. And that's where we could make a lot of progress as Student Assembly.
We'll take another question now, and I believe the Flat Hat had some questions, if there was a member of them from here. Yes, would you like to ask one?
Certainly. Well, part of the One Family Resolution really came out of a student call to action. Students wanted to see the Student Assembly take up the issue of racial diversity on campus. They wanted to see the Student Assembly address some of their concerns and making sure that their experiences were validated, so that we knew that not just the voices of some students mattered, but the voices in the lives of all students mattered. Part of that was the, as you mentioned, the reporting survey, which would provide students an opportunity to inform the administration of incidents of bias and discrimination on campus. As part of that survey, when we were having the conversations with it, it's looking as though most likely we would look to have more student involvement and more student input before anything such as that would be advanced.
So as SA president and vice president, Marcel and I would really work to improve diversity on campus. So we don't specifically support this system, but we would really be working for diversity of all types, not just racial diversity, and making sure that everyone's voice was heard. We would encourage more open dialogue between Greek life and diversity groups. So I know that Marcel has recently worked with Kim Novak and Josh Welsh of Novak Talks, and we would be working to continue that, to have an open dialogue on campus and a community where everyone felt comfortable talking to everyone else about that. Also, we would encourage safe zone certification of elected and appointed members of SA, just to make campus overall a better climate for talking about diversity of all types, not just racial diversity.
All right, we'll take another question. Yes, Chase.
So you guys mentioned that you both want to get into the specifics, so I agree. I think the depth is in the details. So I'd like for you both to mention one annual program that you would like to keep and one annual program that you don't think is worth keeping or that would be worth reforming.
Excellent question. Thank you. And Claire, we'll start with you.
All right, so one annual program that Marcel and I would like to implement is, I know that right now James City County has a park to park event. It's where you ride bikes to every park in James City County. And I think that the bike initiative could really get involved with this program, and it could be something great for all of William & Mary. And I think that getting more engaged in the community, participating in their events, could really help Williamsburg to see us as an important part of the community, a vital part of the community. So that would be something that we would institute. And as for changes in current SA programs, we would like not just a mental health awareness week, but also to maybe have different types of weeks to encourage more awareness about what student organizations already exist. So like a multicultural week or a social issues week, really just to increase awareness.
One of my favorite William & Mary traditions that we have here is I Am William & Mary Week, and I have been thrilled to be the sponsor of that bill last year, and I'm thrilled to continue to sponsor more diversity initiatives programming. I want to make sure that all the students who come here understand that they are valued and that they feel respected when they come here. One of the programs that I would look to implement is We Day, that also came from the Diversity Initiatives Department, wanting students to understand their responsibility not just to their local and to their national and to the nation, but also to their global responsibility. We Day was here in Commonwealth, and Emmanuel Draw was able to come here and really tie in some of William & Mary's core tenets with the tenets of We Day, so that we all understand our global responsibility, that we have a responsibility to not advocate just for our nation, for our local government and our issues, but also the people of the entire world.
Anyone who hasn't asked one yet would like to ask a question? You may go again then.
In regards to the racial climate survey, it's been noted that usually people who benefit most from these conversations are not the ones who are going to be participating in them. How would the two of you seek to engage members of the community who actively do need sort of a fundamental understanding of racism, discrimination, and prejudice, and what those concepts mean? Especially when they would not necessarily want to participate in that discussion. How would you sort of, I guess, inspire them to want to be informed about that issue?
Yohance, we'll start with you.
So part of our platform is Open Ears, Open Hearts, making sure that the Student Assembly is leading in a way that is bold and courageous, where all people can say, they are proud to be a part of the William & Mary family, and really putting meaning back into the saying, one tribe, one family. So to answer your question, I think that the table talks that the Diversity Initiatives Department has done, as well as the seed dialogues from the CSD, I think are really integral to making sure that we understand the issues around identity, gender, race, and the whole gamut of identities that we have here at William & Mary. So as Student Assembly President, I would continue to promote those programs from the CSD because I think that is a great resource for students.
So part of what Marcel and I would also like to do is to improve the first year experience or orientation talks, especially what's now extended orientation. So a part of that would be changing how we talk about diversity and changing our orientation experience that's on diversity to really make it more inclusive, and perhaps having a staff member there as well as a student to really make sure that this crucial discussion on diversity isn't understated or doesn't go astray. And we'd also like, in those first year experiences, to talk more about mental health and to make sure that all students are really ready if a friend comes to them with a problem, to address that problem and to be ready to help, so that all of us are ready to help a friend.
All right, any questions from the audience? Yes, Sam.
All right, both of you guys said that you have experience with President's Life. Yohance, you're an RA, and Claire, you've been on Hall Council for several years. How would both of your presidencies work to sort of improve dorm life on campus, and how would you guys interact with Hall Councils and RHA?
Claire, we'll start with you.
Well, obviously, I'm used to the way hall councils work, and my running mate, Marcel, is on RHA right now. So we would both be very familiar with the structure there, and it would be very easy for us to help. I was actually thinking the other day, why doesn't SA ever come to hall council to talk about their events? Why hasn't that ever happened? And just that we could be more inclusive and more of a community so that everyone would really know what was going on in SA, and so that their programs would be known to the student body far in advance. And so that would definitely be something that we would do. And also, as far as dorm life, Marcel and I would really like to practice more self-determination on campus, whether it's with mental and physical health or with transparency. Self-determination in that you could come to an SA meeting and talk about if there was something on the agenda that interested you.
I've had experience in res life. When I was a freshman, I was in the hall council, and now I serve as a RA in Gooch Hall. And I think that there is certainly a lot of opportunity for the student assembly and for hall councils in res life to have a more open line of communication. And I think part of that is making sure that whenever we're having a mental health awareness week, or whenever we're having one of our initiative weeks on campus, that the students are receiving that message not just from their student assembly and their student government, but also from the dorms in which they live. So making sure that the programming that the student assembly does is tied up and synced to some of the programming that Res Life does. So that when students are in their dorms and also when they're outside of their dorms, they're hearing the same message. So that's what Katie and I would look to do to link up Res Life and the student assembly.
Thank you. And I received via text an idea for a question here to get more of your human sides of the candidates. If you were a kitchen appliance, what kitchen appliance would you be? We will start with Yohance.
Let's see. If I were a kitchen appliance, I've never had that question posed to me before, but I would say that I would be a washing machine. I enjoy, here's another probably extended metaphor. I enjoy the opportunity to really get down and to really clean and make sure that when the student assembly is having an initiative that we're not looking at problems as they have been or as problems that they have been, but we're cleaning up and constantly reforming and changing to make sure that when we present programs that it's clean and effective and that it can be well received by students.
If I were a kitchen appliance that you keep in the kitchen, I would be a mixer. Sorry, Yohance. I would be a mixer because when you have a mixer, you make a smoothie. You don't make separate little things that or stay on their own parts of the plate. Everything is all mixed together. And so you can't really separate out, well, like this is Res Life and this is what they do, and this is RHA and this is what they do, and this is SA and this is what they do, and this is student impact and this is what they do. We would all be working together in community, and we would all be working for the same goals, and we would be having a conversation about what those goals are and how we can reach them and what resources we have and how we can all use them to achieve those goals and a better student life at William & Mary.
Does anyone from the audience have a question at this juncture? Okay, well, I received another text question talking about, you guys spoke a lot about diversity, and this student thinks that the diversity between in-state students and out-of-state students is something we should also consider. What are your opinions on the idea that out-of-state tuition is increasing and in-state tuition is not so as much? And we'll start with, who did we start with last time? I believe we start with Claire this time. Yes. Thank you.
So as far as out-of-state students and in-state students, I would say that that is a valuable source of diversity, and that it's very valuable that we have out-of-state students here as a different perspective and as a new perspective. So that is really something that we value. And for out-of-state students, it's important that they really feel like they're also a part of community at William & Mary. And so I think that community engagement would really be helpful here. So helping out-of-state students get in touch with Williamsburg and get to know their local government would be really helpful. And also, as far as tuition costs, working with the state is really the only thing that can bring down tuition costs, and so that would be a priority.
I think it's really important that we continue to work with the Board of Visitors and continue to work with Richmond to increase the school's funding so that we can better serve not only our out-of-state students, but also our international students and our in-state students, making sure that the funding is there for people who want to come here. I think part of that looks like a strong alumni connection to the undergraduate program. So part of Katie and I's platform is having an alumni mentoring program where students can be partnered with an alum who really has a passion about William & Mary, and they can help sponsor that student to help bring some of those costs down, to help them with career development and personal development. But I think it's really important that we continue to really push Richmond and really push the Board of Visitors to make sure that college is affordable for all people.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience at this juncture? No. Okay, well, I have another texted in question from my source. This one I like. So there's no debate that William & Mary's campus is beautiful, but what is your favorite spot on William & Mary's campus? We will start with Yohance.
I would say that Old Campus is definitely my favorite. There's something about that feel of walking on the bricks. There's something about going to the terrace or hanging out in the sunken gardens and seeing really the wealth of people that we have at the College of William & Mary. It's wonderful when the weather is allowing to sit on the terrace or to sit on the sunken gardens so that we can have communications and conversations between each other. I enjoy sitting out in front of the Blair statue, which is also a nice place to sit and to see and to watch students as they pass by and they go to their classes and they talk to each other. So I really enjoy, I guess I'm an Old Campus guy, because I think it's a perfect opportunity for people to continue to mix and mingle and to talk to each other.
All right, Claire, your favorite place on campus?
My favorite place on campus has got to be Lake Matoka. So I was in Botetourt freshman year, and if I hadn't had a good friend who already knew the trails behind Lake Matoka, I would still be lost in the woods today, but thankfully I did. And so I've really gotten to know the trails back there, which are great for running and biking, and Lake Matoka itself, which is really gorgeous, and it's really a place where students can relax and enjoy being in each other's company and just be connected with nature. And so another part of our campaign is Marcel and I would actually like to have maps of those trails up on the trails so that people don't get lost, which would be really helpful, but that is my favorite part of campus.
Any questions from the audience? Yes, up there in the red. Thank you. So we'll start with you with a specific example of collaborating with administration, please, Claire.
Well, I've definitely had to work with ResLife before, which is a distant part of administration. And I've been working with ResLife and Hall Council for quite a while now. And sometimes it can be very difficult because administration can just shut down things instead of, really starting a conversation. So I know that it's important to be persistent with administration. For example, we've had some difficulties getting them to allow trash cans outside of Jefferson, which has been hard. But in the end, we had to promise that we would empty them, but we were able to communicate with administration effectively, and I think that's something that's really important.
So currently I serve as a president's aide, so every month or so we get together with President Reeve, we get to discuss some of the issues that he sees are on campus. I've worked with the CSD and Dr. Vernon Hurt in making sure that the Student Assembly and William & Mary is more inclusive. But I think that one of the areas where the Student Assembly can really work with the administration is in terms of funding. So currently the Student Assembly funds things such as the Blue Books that we have on campus, and making sure that we can shift some of the administration's money so that the Student Assembly can go off with what Katie and I are thinking of, a Kickstarter, making sure that we go out and we're funding those organizations and those new startup clubs so that they can really get their message out there. One of the organizations that I've had the pleasure of working with, this term is Thon. So we wanted to make sure that the Student Assembly is able to go out with the permission of the administration and help found and charter new organizations.
All right, thank you very much. I think we have time for one more question from the audience. If anybody. Yes, you there.
Well, I was kind of surprised to see, with the class of 2017 this year only has 3 senators running for 4 positions. So why do you guys think that exists, and what would you, what specific strategies would you implement so that in the future we don't have this problem?
Great question, and one that the Elections Commission up here would like to know as well. So we will start with you, Yohance.
Yeah, I think the sign of a robust democracy is that we have competitive elections. And so I think that all too often, sometimes the Student Assembly, we promote and we say, here we have these elections, but there isn't really a Student Assembly member going out to these clubs and going out to these organizations, advertising the elected positions that we have, because I think serving in the Student Assembly is a wonderful experience that more people should have. So I would look to go out into student organizations, continue to flyer about the elections, continue to conclude in the campus-wide emails that the Student Assembly elections are happening. So I think that's where the Student Assembly can engage the student body so that they know about the elections and can participate in them.
Claire?
Yeah, so it is very surprising that there's such low SA participation. And for instance, there are only 2 candidates for president. Last year there were 3. The year before that there were 4. The year before that there were 6. So clearly interest in SA is decreasing. And I would say that SA transparency is really the only thing that can combat that. So if people are used to the idea that they can come to SA and participate, even as a non-member of SA, if people really are aware of what's going on, I would say that what SA should do is have the agenda, a very truncated version of the agenda, on student happenings every week, so that people are aware of what SA is talking about and they're aware of whether or not it would be interesting to them. And I think that there would be more participation if it wasn't something that we said that you really have to have SA experience to run for SA.
Point of clarification. All the other Student Assembly meetings are already open to the public. Senate meets in Blow 331 at 7 p.m. The Undergraduate Council meets, I believe, in Sadler at 6 o'clock. So students have that opportunity to go to their Student Assembly and to be a part of the Student Assembly meetings. All of our committee meetings are open. We have the time reserved for students that we call public comment, because we want more public comment. We want students coming to the Student Assembly and attending our meetings more. So as a member of the Student Assembly, I would like to invite all of you to our Student Assembly meetings because they are open to the public.
And then Claire, if you'd like to respond to that.
And as a response, I would say that yes, Student Assembly meetings are open to the public right now, but the website was down for 2 months. The last SA agenda that was published on January 25th. I'm sure that you all have had meetings since then. for SA. And I'm sure that things have been happening, and there's really no way for students to know what's going on if SA isn't communicating with them, if SA isn't publishing agendas, if they're not publishing meeting notes regularly, if all students have to go off of is the 100 Days of SA campaign, which is great, but which tells students about what's happening only after it's already been decided. They don't have a chance to participate in the decision-making process right now.
All right, well, that is the conclusion of our questions. We're going to give each candidate a 60-second closing remark to convey anything that you didn't feel you had a chance to convey this evening, and anything you'd like to tell the voters in these last few days before the election. And Claire, we will start with you.
So, if I were SA president, then a really big thing would be more communication between students and me. I would have office hours every week, every day if I could, probably every 3 days. We would have more opportunities to really share resources. So for instance, Yohance is promoting an alumni mentorship program. An alumni and upperclassmen mentorship program already exists. It's run by Van Black. It provides connections and mentoring to students. Clearly, SA right now just isn't working with student organizations that we already have. We're not sharing resources, and that's something that really needs to happen. So if SA were more transparent, and if it really reached out to other organizations to say, this is what we're doing, we want your help, what are you doing, what can we do, then it would really start the conversation and foster a community and work for progress at William & Mary.
Yohance, your closing remarks, please.
Certainly. So as I said earlier, I have the wise eyes and Katie has the fresh eyes. I've been in SA, Katie hasn't been in SA, but together we have a balanced perspective of campus, looking to make sure that students are connected to the student assembly and the student assembly is connected to the students that they serve. So making sure that those resources are available to all students, making sure that we engage and advocate for all students, whether that be in Richmond, in Williamsburg, or in Washington. And making sure that we inspire the students, making sure that the student assembly is leading in a way that all students are proud of, so that all students can say with pride that they are happy to be a part of the William & Mary community. So we hope that on Thursday you go out and you check Yohance and Katie, because we are excited, we are prepared, we are ready, we have the leadership skills and the know-how to get the job done.
On behalf of the William & Mary Elections Commission, I'd like to thank you all very much for coming out and your support of this event tonight. I would especially like to thank my commission member and the serving executive branch for all their help in setting up this wonderful event. And one last huge round of applause for our candidates. What a fantastic job for each of you.